Walzer thinks there's a way in which we typically talk about war, in which war is tyrannical and involves tyranny. And he wants to say that that way is mistaken. And then he wants to give his own account of the tyranny of war. So sometimes, he says, we talk about war as an impersonal force. This happens in literature, in the news, and other things. He says it's often described as if war itself were the tyrant, a natural force like flood or famine, or personified, a brutal giant stalking his prey. So we imagine it like this famine or a flood that comes in and damages people and hurts them out of nowhere, or a brutal giant from a mystical land coming in and fighting. And Walzer thinks we shouldn't get too swept up in this romantic and mystical way of talking about war. If we do that, it causes us to misunderstand war in important ways. In particular, he thinks that wars aren't self-starting. It's not like accidental fires that pop up out of nowhere that humans might have nothing to do with it. Maybe it's hard to figure out the cause of war. Maybe it's due to all sorts of complicated factors. But one thing that's there at bottom is it's people like you and me who are making decisions that lead to war. And he says the real tyranny of war is this: those who resist aggression are forced to imitate and perhaps even exceed the brutality of the aggressor. One doesn't aim to merely settle with the enemy, the perceived aggressor, but to defeat and punish him, and if not, abolish the tyranny of war, at least to reduce the probability of future oppression. So he's going back to this idea of escalation, where each side feels it needs to escalate. And he doesn't think that idea is true, but he thinks that we feel like it's true and we act as though it's true. So think about General Sherman and the burning of Atlanta. He was a general for the North. He took Atlanta and he burned it to the ground. And he did this because he felt he had to do it to stop the war. He had to up the ante. He had to be really aggressive so that that city would not again serve as a military station for Confederate soldiers. He knew it was cruel, but he didn't blame himself. He blamed the person who started the war. And Walzer thinks it doesn't have to work that way. It doesn't have to escalate. And that's possibly on Sherman. He can't just get himself off the hook by saying that.